Hello guys, welcome to Cloud5. In today's video I'm going to discuss the migration technique of Postgres database from on-premises to AWS RDS. Here the high-level steps I'm going to discuss. At the beginning I'll be showing you this how to prepare the Postgres database as a DMS source. What are the prerequisites, what could be done, what could not be done, and thereafter I will be creating a target PostgreSQL database. And the third steps, it will be a DMS steps, like creating this replication instance, creating the endpoints, and what are the techniques in the DMS steps. Okay, and the last 4 steps I will be doing some validations. I will also discuss about the post migration database cutover techniques. Okay, let's proceed. Well, when the first thing is that the source database checks, the question comes to your mind that where is my source database? When I said about on-prem, that means it is there in your on-premise side, but also it could be in your EC2 machine, somewhere in the EC2 machine. It could be when you're talking about the EC2 machine, it is inside a VPC, and this could be inside a private subnet, because most of the database levels we put the database in the private subnet, and the web server or the application server in the web server in the public subnet. This could be also in your, if it is in your client side, then how it is connected with this with the AWS? Is it going to the public internet, or is there any kind of a direct connect established, or is kind of is connected through a VPC? I'm going to discuss all these things a little bit later when I'll discuss with how we can setting up network for a replication instance. I'll be discussing the same thing with the DMS replication instance. The second thing, the CDC requirement. Now CDC is continuous applications. So your database, is it kind of a production database? At the time of load, is there any continuous update, delete, DML statements is going to happen? Then you have to enable it for the CDC. The CDC, you need to go for the CDC. The third thing is that is very important things, the object and the data types. So you have to know your source systems, because there are many limitations when you are going to migrate using the DMS. So you have to understand what is your objects and data types. So how much data do you have? It all depends upon this. If you have a multi-terabyte data, it might be the DMS might not be a good option, because maybe you cannot send the data to the internet. Maybe the snowball age with this CDC, with the snowball age with the DMS, you have to do that. Another thing is that do you have any historical data? Maybe what kind of historical data do you have? Do you want to keep it to the AWS? Do you want to purge it? So these portions I am going to discuss, showing you what is there inside my source database, and then we'll discuss further. Okay, so this is a PG admin. So I logged into my source database testdb, and mostly I have table, and I have I believe one functions, and mostly tables. So I am having a 78 tables. You can say that I am having some of the tables which having multiple rows and many rows, I believe thousands of rows, and these are the some partition tables. So at the time of Oracle to Postgres, I'll choose as a every partition table as a single table. So they are that you can say that they are single table itself. And what I am having some kind of interesting data. So what are they? I am having one table called image. So why I am telling it is interesting, because if I'll go to the properties and go to the column, you can say it is a byte. So it is having a LOB. It's having a LOB data. So So if I calculate the size of the LOB data, you can say I am having a 10 rows of LOB data, and it's they're very much varying in size. So I'll just put it to maybe put the things little bit complicated so that we can learn something out of this video. You can see some of the database, some of the objects are in KB, and some of them very big, like this one 38.5 MB, there is 33.5 MB, there are somewhere in the KB and somewhere in the 4 MB, 15 MB, 3 MB, 4 MB, and two objects is very big. Okay, so this is my LOB data. Okay, so another thing I am just going to inform what I have. I am having one table here called employees. So if I'll go to the properties and column, so you can see that I am also having one table called employee, which is having the data type as a JSON. Okay, so normally this looks like this. This is a JSON data type. Okay, I am also having there is a floating point, can say data, the column name is double precision, it's a double. Okay, I am also having one table called temporal types, and I will go to the column. So it is having with the time zone without time without time zone, timestamp without time zone, timestamp with time zone. Okay, and I am also having some list of tables which having the geometric data, like points, poly, path, line, circle, box. These are the all names, all the suffix are the data type. So this is box, this is circle, okay. So I added this table purposefully to make this video, because we're gonna see once the migration is done that how much is successful. Because next things, when I'll come to the DMS, I'll be going to discuss about some of the steps that what DMS can do, what DMS can't when this using PostgreSQL as a source. So if I'll go to this, this is a document of the DMS document, and I am using PostgreSQL as a source. Okay, so if I'll go to this chart, this is the chart where the following table shows source PostgreSQL data types and whether they can be migrated successfully. Okay, we can see that some of the steps, like the timestamp, it's a partially migrates, and also it's okay, and time interval partially migrated. I am already having the timestamps. Okay, now if I'll go back, some of the things, box doesn't migrate, path doesn't migrate, line doesn't migrate, circle doesn't migrate, JSON partially migrate, and okay, so I'll have all the both the data types, or I can say multiple data types, which either partially migrates or doesn't migrate. So it will be interesting to see what is the status after post migration status in the RDS. Okay, now if I'll scroll down, there is some kind of prerequisites. This portion is very, very important. Now the first prerequisite about the connections. You know that this is my PostgreSQL and installed on a client machine. For my case is EC2. So all the connections it's depends on the configuration of the PGHBA-conf. And if you see my earlier video for the PGHBA-conf, okay, if you see my earlier video for the PGHBA-conf, I already put it as a I already changed the connections so that it can allow connection from everywhere. So I'll just want to show you what is the connection looks like now. Okay, you can see that this is the database all user all address 0000. That means it is available for the whole world, though it is not a prescribed thing to do from the security point of view. Since it is my testing systems, I do it that way. But what DMS looking for, because you can see that add the IP address of the DMS replication server to the PGHBA-conf. That means that the real world, when you are going to create the replication server, you can get a public IP and a private IP. You have to put the IP. It depends upon the public and private. We'll discuss later, because if it is the same VPC, definitely you have to put the private IP. If it is a different VPC and if you are putting as a public options, so if it is going to the internet, you have to put the public IP. So you have the thing is that either you have to put the IP address of the DMS. For us, it's already open to the world, so we don't bother. Okay, the next thing is that say the following parameters and the values for the PostgreSQL things. The first thing is that set wall label. First thing is that set the wall level is logical. So if you know the Postgres, there are three types of wall level. The one is the minimal, second is replica, and third is logical. The logical is that it's having the enough information to support the logical decoding. Now why this Postgres requires the logical for the DMS? Because in a DMS sets up the logical replication slots and uses the test decoding plugin to read changes from the source and migrate them to the target. So this step is very important. The second is set max replication slots of value greater than 1. First of all, 1 is required because you are going to run a one task. That means how many tasks you are going to run. You need in a kind of a you need to set these things. Suppose example they have given that if you run the 5 tasks, you need to set up a minimum 5 slots. Slots, what is happening, that means definitely if you run the 5 slots together, that means parallelly you need more slots. Okay, so the third thing is that max wall senders, that is also the number of concurrent tasks you need to run, the max wall senders. So this is also greater than 1. It depends upon how many tasks we are going to run. Then the last one is the max wall sender timeout. The timeout parameters terminates replication connection. They are inactive longer than number of milliseconds. They are saying this, the default is 60 seconds and they are recommending to put it 0. That means it's never got timeout. Okay, then last thing is that the parameter idle in transaction session timeout in PostgreSQL's version 9.6 later lets you the cause idle transaction timeout fail. Okay, I am going to change all these parameters now in the PGHBA-conf, and I am going to restart my PostgreSQL. Okay, so let's do it. First is wall, it's comment out. I'll put as a logical. Second is max wall senders. Okay, it's put 10. I'll put, okay, 10 is okay, I'll put also 10. Third is max replication slots. I'm not going to run 10 slots ever, but okay, I'm putting the 10 itself. Then is wall senders timeout. Okay, its timeout is 60 seconds. It's recommended to set it as a 0. That means disabled. The last one, I believe this is idle in transaction timeout. Let me see, there is no prescribed value here, so let me see what is the things here. Is 0, that is disabled. Okay, they said don't end idle timeout when you use DMS. Don't end. Okay, I'll not doing anything. The next steps, I have to restart. I'm going to restart using pgctl and start. Okay, now if I'll check, okay, you can see that it's already set. Okay, good. So now I'm gonna discuss some of the limitations, and this is what to know before proceed to the actual migrations. Well, what I find out, it's a major problem happens whenever you don't have a primary key. I got so many tables, mostly the test data, so it doesn't have any primary key. So what the DMS, there is a limitations that you cannot perform the delete and update records in the CDC if you don't have a primary key. It doesn't take. And also that timestamp with the time zone type column isn't supported. I already have something. We can see that what happens after that. Also AWS doesn't support start process change from timestamps. I never encountered this way, but this is highlighted, maybe a good things to know. Okay. And another thing is very important, that DMS doesn't support truncate operations. Change processing with this the CDC time you cannot do the truncate operations, and this is also very important. Since I already have the LOB data, but this is a byte the data types. If you have a OID, that that OID handles this LOB data a little bit differently. It will store this in a it's stored in an external table. So if you have a YD data in your Postgres, you have to convert to the YD to the byte before doing this actual migration using the DMS. There are other few stuffs. Definitely you should go through with this before going to the PostgreSQL. Now rest of the things is for RDS as a source. I am using PostgreSQL, not a RDS as a source, so they are not relevant for me. Okay, so The next steps, I'll be quickly creating a RDS database. There is nothing fancy about this. So I'll go into the RDS. Since this is a testing video, I'll stick with the free versions, but later I will show you why currently I will be choosing this T2 micro, but later I will be showing you why this M type or the standard RX type is important. What is the benefit of that? I am having a separate section for that, but let's not discuss this right now. Okay, I'll be promptly creating a database. I'm choosing the public access, yes, and the VPC my own security groups. Okay, and also I'll be choosing an initial database as the same as mine. Rest of apps, I am not going to discuss anything on the performance insights, so I am just disabling in these things. Now since this will take some time, I'll go to my next step. My next step is to understand the DMS part. We will be doing this migration using the DMS. So from this picture you can see how the DMS works. There is a source database, that is our PostgreSQL in EC2, and there will be a target database which you are currently creating. This is RDS Postgres, and the DMS is in between. That means there is a there will be a replication instance, there will be a source endpoint and target endpoints. That means this will be a connections from the source as well as target, and there will be a replication instance. This is a replication instance, is normally a EC2 instance, but we could not it's a EC2 instance running there. So what happens, there will be thereafter there will be a replication task. So this will take this all the data from the source and it will push it to the target. Okay, now you remember that one of the point I said that I am going to discuss later when I'll be discussing about the replication instance, that is about that where is my source. Now let's figure it out. It's not only my source, let's figure it out where is my source, where is my target. There could be multiple scenarios. The simple scenarios we are discussing here, this is the first one, where my database is an EC2 instance, my replication instance and my target instance, we are using the same VPC. So this is very easy. That means even it doesn't matter whether my EC2 instance is resides on a public subnet or the private subnet, because everything is same. When you are choosing as a public private subnet, it will automatically, your replication instance automatically use its private IP also. Okay, so this is very easy. Now the second thing is that I gonna discuss, this is about the little bit different. Let's suppose I have created my EC2 instance in a different VPC and my RDS instance in a different VPC due to some requirement, and the best practice is that I have to create the replication instance in the same VPC in this target, so it will be nearby. Okay, it is easier for replications migrations. So for in that case, that if it is my EC2 instance normally which resides in the private subnets, I have to create a VPC peering so that it can connect in the private IP. Okay, so this is something also very much common. Now I believe since my subject line here it's migrate Postgres from source on perm, so I believe the third and fourth picture is quite relevant for me. Why? Because if you assume the database resides on my client side and RDS definitely on the AWS VPC level, so that means the question comes about the connections. Now the simplest solution is that I will be using this public intranet, so it will be going through the internet gateway, but which is quite unlikely. Maybe it happens for the small databases for the testing purpose. Normally for the major commercial databases or for the customers, they used to have some kind of secure connections. I believe the two are not only secured, also with having higher bandwidth than the normal internet connection internet provider. So there will be some kind of software or hardware based VPN connections, or there will be a AWS direct connect. Okay, so in both the situations, in all these 4 situations, we can use the DMS, and there will be some kind of for every steps there will be a little bit difference about the network connections, and based on that we have to work on that. Okay, so if I'll move, so the first thing, and that another also the things, I am having a different sections which I will be discussing on a different video. I have how to migrate the LOB data, because this is a very interesting one. So I am just showing you now, but the detailed discussions I'll be doing later. So now what I'm going to do, my database is still preparing. I'm directly go to the DMS, and I'm creating my replication instance. So they used to do a lot of changes. This ARN slot was not there earlier. I think they have added. Okay, now how you can choose the instance class. From my real-time experience, this is little bit I'll say puzzling, because if you have a say multi-terabyte load, this load is depends upon the performance, the concurrency, all depends upon how much, what is the memory and what is the CPU is needed in the replication instance. But there is no vis-a-vis comparisons, because I find sometimes whenever you are doing some kind of multi-terabyte things, your full load is very slow, or your CDC is very slow. This also happens when you are using this LOB data. So I'll be discussing later how the instance classes matters whenever you are doing this inline mode. But this is something what I feel is very much puzzling. Normally, if you for my data, maybe I hardly having some 1 or 2 GB of data, so for my level maybe the T2 small is good. But if you have a high amount of data, and if you want to do it, now also there is also something very important. For the CDC, what I believe, this instance class is very important, but it depends upon your thing. So you try to match whatever the data you have in the source and whatever the instance class you there in the target. It's a good thing to match if you can match it, because then there will be a kind of a equilibrium in between your resources in the source side or resources in the target side. So that is a good idea. For me, since it is a test one, I will choose it D2 DMS T2 small. Allocated storage 20 is fine with me. As I said, I will be having the VPC in the same VPC, so it is publicly accessible. Now there is another catch is there. If you choose publicly accessible, that's good. Otherwise this is required if you have doing through the internet. For me, this is, I can choose not publicly accessible, because they are in the same VPC. It doesn't matter anyway. Even if you are in the same VPC, if your source database is in a private IP, it can directly choose the private IP. So for my case, it doesn't matter, but I'll remain choose as a yes. Okay, subnet doesn't matter for me. VPC security group, I will put the same security group, and I'll create. Now for the next sections, hopefully my database is now created. Yes, is available. Good. Now let me create my endpoints. My replication instance should be ready. Yes. Okay, first I will create the target endpoints, and let me see, is there any endpoint specific things. Let me go to target for data migrations, choose PostgreSQL as a target. Do I have anything? There is some kind of additional extra connections I can use. Max file size, this is mostly for the S3 as a source. Execute timeout, and this is I'll require maybe for the CDC, so I'll put this one. This is for the change data capture only. Okay, so endpoint specific setting. And do you have anything else? No. And I will test connections, run test. Okay, successful, create endpoints. Let me do the next one. Before that, I'll take the IPv4 address of EC2. Okay, choose the DMS, endpoints, create endpoints. Source is source EC2. Okay, say about Postgres. Server name is my IPv4 IP, port 5432, username testdba, password pass, database name testdb. There will be no endpoint specific tray setting. Test connections, yes, run test. Successful, create endpoints. Okay, now my replication instance and both the endpoints are ready. So I'll go to the database migration task. So I'm going to create a database migration task. So create task, put as a task 1. Okay, from drop down. Okay, here there is a 3 migration types with full load with CDC and only the CDC. Normally if you have a small database and you just doing these things just for the video purpose or the training purpose, normally I used to show you with the CDC. There is a second option, but in this video I want to do it how actual migration happens when you have a live database with an OLTP kind of a database where there is a constant DML is happening or constant use is happening. So normally we used to do using this full load fast and then the CDC later. There is a specific purpose on that, and in my the last sections I am going to discuss about the what really happens, how migrations happens in the real case, and what are the techniques we can take it and what is the benefits out of it. So for the sake of things, I'll choose this migrate existing data. So now coming to the task settings, you can do the wizard and the JSON editor. I'll choose the wizard. Now target table preparation mode, either if suppose we are doing it multiple times, so do nothing means do nothing. There is if there is a tables, there will be tables and the data will be same. Drop the tables on target, that means if you are doing it multiple times on the same tables, it will drop the tables on target and it will recreate at the time of migrations. And the third option, truncate, it will not drop the structure, it will drop the data. Okay, so I'll choose the default option, drop tables on target, but for my case we are having an empty database at the target side. Now for the include LOB columns in the applications, I already said I will be having a separate discussions of the LOB, because LOB is very interesting, and where I will be discussing in detail about the no LOB, full LOB mode, limited LOB and the inline LOB, and what are the benefits out of it, what is the advantage, disadvantage. So for these portions I will be including this, don't include the LOB columns. Okay, enable validations, yes. Enable CloudWatch log, yes. Whenever you are enabling the CloudWatch log is very important for the debugging. You can actually debug, you can actually get the errors, and if there is any warning, everything you can get it through the CloudWatch log. We'll be definitely checking, we'll be purposefully doing some kind of mistakes, and we'll be checking the CloudWatch logs. Now whenever you will enable the debugging using the CloudWatch logs, the latest versions of the DMS having this option in the front end itself. Previously we have to set it up in the CLI level, so it was not there for the debugging purpose. Now for the debugging purpose, mostly the source unload and the target loads are important for the full load, and the source capture and the target apply is required for the CDC. So I'll be choosing this detailed debug, and I am not choosing these options. I can choose now, but since it is not required for the CDC, I am not choosing. Task manager I'll also choose. Now the table mapping, you having this, okay, I'm not doing any kind of advanced tags. Okay, so the table mapping, either you can have the wizard and the JSON editor, both are good. JSON editor, you are having, you know, control, you can do the micro level control. Wizard is good for the simple kind of selections. For the, you know, complex selections, it is prescribable to use a JSON editor. For me, I'll be using the wizard now. So first I'll be choosing a add a new selection rule. Schema name I'll be putting as a default. Table name I'll put as everything default. Action include. Okay, now for transformation rules, I'll be doing some kind of transformation rules. Say my target is table, schema is okay, table name I'll put as a cost. Okay, for my cost table, you can say I am having a, this is the table. For the table level thing, actions, I'll rename to the new cost. Okay, I'll be adding another one, transformation rules. This time I'll choose it for the column. Schema name is things. Okay, table name is cost. Column name, okay, column name I'll choose a unit price. And actions I'll choose as remove column. Okay, I can have n numbers of transformation rules. Okay, but I am good with the 2. So I'll be choosing this pre-migration assessment. There is a, you know, since I have chosen this full load, only the 3 assessments are available right now. But as you know, I have not included my LOB, so I am unchecking this first one. So I'll be checking with this unsupported error. Okay, so I'll choosing one. I am going to choose one S3 bucket. For the IAM role, I need to have an IAM role for this one, which the DMS can assume. So I'll go to the IAM management console. I have to create IAM role. I'm going to the role, create role. I'll choose DMS. Next permission. Okay, I'll choose S3 because it's going to put the assessment report in the S3. I'll choose S3 full access. Okay, now it's coming. Create task. Should be good now. Run for a minute or 2. So if I'll go back and do the assessment results, it can say that you can status is failed. That means one of the assessment got failed. We know that because I already told you some of the geometric data which is not supported in DMS. So I'll click in there. It says 4 tables failed, warning table 62, pass table 12. So what is got failed? Temp path, temp circle, temp line, temp box failed. What is partially supported? This is the partition tables, partially supported. What is the quantity sold? It is float 8. This is all float 8. For interval time, interval, we have to be very much, we have to sure what happens after these migrations. Okay, so float 8, interval, these are failed. We'll go to the next line, all the float 8. So float 8 and the third, these are all float 8. The rest of the table got passed. Now we'll go back to the migration task. I want migration to be happened. So you can see that progress is now showing 0 because it's now starting. I believe this is also gonna take a few minutes, though I am having a very maybe a few 100 MBs of data, but believe me, for a full load for a multi GB or multi terabyte, it takes a hell lot of time. So I'll go to the table statistics first. You can see that all the tables are showing here. It is some of the completed, some of the before load. So if I'll go to the overview details, you can show the progress. It's 5% progression happens. So this where the few things depends, like whatever the, if you are doing it parallelly, what is the wall senders and the whatever the parameters, like this is the parameters we put earlier, like as a PostgreSQL as a source. This where it's we are not doing any parallel steps. We are also doing like max replication slots. It's we are doing for, we are putting as a 10. Max wall senders is 1 because it's not concurrent, and also we are using a very pretty smaller replication instance, so everything is limited. The RAM and the CPU is very limited. So with the limited data itself, is going to take a while. Now you can see the progress. Some of the tables is already completed, some of the tables are full load is happening before load. So what is the actual data? I am having some data, but these are all sample data. Some 162,000, 186,000. So it is also doing the validations, and then most of the times you can have the validation result no primary unique key found, because this is the test data. So the problem will happen if the CDC, if I'll have some kind of DML, mostly the delete and update, it won't capture because there is no CDC, there is no unique index or the primary index found. So now it is 49%, so it's gonna take some while. Now if I'll go to the CloudWatch metrics, you can see it will be it's almost, it's not skyrocketed, but it's a decent amount of spikes happens in the CloudWatch level. You can see, because a lot of things are happening, and it's a comparatively very smaller replication instance we have chosen. Now another thing, it said that it's running with errors. Full load migration task is completed, though it is errored out, though we know that it's supposed to be errored out. Okay, we'll do this load state. We short through the load state, but this is something interesting. That the assessment report was saying about the 4 tables. Now the 2 tables only errored out. I was expecting 4. That means the temp path and the temp poly is errored out. Temp line is completed but 0 rows. So if I'll go there, temp poly, how many rows are there? 1 row. So it's not errored out, but it's not actually does anything. That interesting. And another one, temp box is completed, and 1 row in 1 row full load rows 1. That's quite interesting. Okay, so you can get everything if you want to check the logs. There is a detailed logs is there. You can get the logs from here. So like you can actions that expand all, you can use the log insights, or you can export the results. So I am more interested now logging to my source systems and see what happens. Okay, I already connected to my database, table 76. Okay, 70 was the source table, 76 here. I'm interested in what happens to the temp box. Is the box. Now this is something very interesting. I don't have any explanations. The explanation is the documentation is little bit old, outdated. Maybe the new DMS they support the box one. Okay, the why it could not do that for temp line, I also don't have any explanation. I have to find it out, but I am quite interested to see that. So if I'll go back here, image, maybe 1 column will come, because the LOB column won't be coming. Column, yes, 1 column is coming, because LOB column we have excluded the LOB column. As of now we are good. Full load is completed and it is expected, the outcome is expected. So I am ending my video here. The next video I am gonna discuss about the detail about the LOB stuffs, what can be done on the LOBs, what are the different modes, which mode we should put when, what is the benefits, and what is the disadvantage. Okay, so please stay tuned on my next video. Until then, thank you, bye.